Hey guys, welcome back. It's Claytano. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. And today we're going to be talking about basically every single gauge buffer in Summoner's War, what they're good for, where they work, why they don't work, etc., etc. And I feel like this is going to be a long video, but I'm going to try to get through it as quickly and efficiently as possible and just kind of go through the list, because the reason why I'm making this video is because I was going through free rune removal on Saturday and basically was just killing myself because I had all these different swift needing monsters. Okay, I had a lot of different gauge buffers that needed swift, and I only had so many good swift sets to put on them, and I was like, how do I prioritize which monster where? And I was just getting super frustrated with myself. So hopefully this kind of helps you guys out in deciding which monster you're going to rune as well, and possibly saving you guys some swift sets that way you can use on other monsters instead. So just to get right into it here, let's talk about some of the more less common ones real quick off the bat, and then we'll get into the more popular ones near the end of the video or as we go along and go forward. So the first one that I want to talk about is one that used to be all over the place, okay? And this is Wayne. It's the water whatever, it's the water Randy, okay? That's what it all comes down to. But basically he has this third skill, Ready to Ambush, and increases the attack bars of all allies by 30%, also increasing their attack speed for 2 turns. So it's basically a Bernard skill. And this monster used to get used a whole lot more than Bernard, strictly because of the AI was just better. So on arena defense, you would always see Wayne on arena defense. This is like way back in the day, 2 years ago. If you guys were playing during that time, go ahead and leave a comment and like, because that was some OG shit right there. Okay, so this is Wayne. Basically, you just use him like normal, but he's not made of irrelevant. There's all these other farmable monsters out there that are better than Wayne right now, so we're just going to skip past him because we don't need to talk about him. The next one that we want to talk about, he's right on the same list as well, so I might as well just knock it out here, is Purian. He's a little bit different, and he's actually a lot more common in the Asia server, I believe, than he is in the global server. Global almost does not use him completely. Like, he's almost just irrelevant in global, but I heard a lot of people, for the most part, do still use some pretty nice Purians, and they can use some cool comps with him because he has this fills attack bar of all allies by 50%, not just 30%, not just 25 or 20, whatever it might be. It's 50%, so you can make your other monsters a little bit slower while having the Purian as fast as you possibly can, but it also increases the critical rate by 3 turns. So instead of increasing like the attack bar with speed, or instead of increasing attack bar with attack and a shield or defense buff, he increases critical rate. So he's nice to use with Lucians for the most part. And really though, the drawback to Purian is that he has a really low base speed, okay? And that's a drawback to a lot of the gauge buffers as well. If they have low speed, it's hard to get them as fast as they possibly can go to outspeed people because they have that low speed, and the Swift set doesn't do as much. It doesn't have as much effect because the Swift is based on the base stats instead of, anything else really. So Purian though, good for Lucians. Other than that, I wouldn't say I would use him too much else. But again, less common, more common in Asia, not in global. Use with Lucians if you need to. I would say there's other options out there, and we'll talk about them for gauge buffers for Lucians. From there, we'll move on to a fire gauge buffer. Again, less commonly used, but a little more common than I would say the Wayne in these days. But you have a Draco, okay, Draco, whatever you want to call him. And he has this third skill, blows a whistle to recover 30% of the attack bar of all allies and gives immunity effect for 2 turns. So this is more of a arena defense monster. You don't want to really build him for arena offense, although you could, and it might be actually pretty nice against, say, a Amduat. Like, I use Velajuel against Amduat teams, and I think Draco would be a good kind of substitute for an Amduat team as well. We'll talk a little bit more about Velajuel as we get into it, but for Draco, if you were wondering what I'm using, you can do like a Tiana into Draco, into Galleon, into Zeros, and you use your Zeros lead and just kind of Have your Zeros as a big Bertha Zeros, so not as much speed as you probably would normally carry on a Zeros. Keep it slower with a lot of damage, so that way you can just one-shot nuke as many possible monsters that you can. Get that Water Ferrokin out of there, get that that Theomars, get that Amduat, whatever that might be, that Perna, all those common arena defense monsters right now. This would be a good option for you. If you don't have Tiana, you could use something like Triton or another buff stripper. Just be careful because your Draco's got to be really up there in speed, like real close to the other one, so that way it doesn't get cut in between, and you don't get to put up your immunity before you get to put up, or before the Amduat attacks you. So got to be thinking about these things, okay? Really, swift set, HP, really, I mean, build it with some accuracy. Nice that it has 106 base speed, which is a lot faster than Velajuel, so it doesn't need as much speed runes to you know, get the amount of speed that you're probably looking for. Aside from that, not super relevant, still less commonly used, more commonly used on arena defense, but overall not a bad monster option. Better ones out there, so we'll get into those. And the last, less common one, I feel like we should still mention it. It's Sean. We're just going to tap on this real quick. He has this: stuns all enemies with 80% chance, increase the attack bar of all allies for 2 turns, and increases the attack bar of all allies by 25%. Obviously, if you have a Shan, I would say probably prioritize your Swift runes on Shan. Probably after your main gauge buffer. He would go next after that, like a Tiana into Shan or Shan. It's pretty OP. Shan, I really want one. I think he's an awesome monster, but just less commonly used. Mainly, I would say speed, crit damage, attack. Other than that, though, we don't need to get too much into it because that's just a lot of salt that we don't need to worry about. So next off, though, we're going to move into some, not like specific gauge buffers, but they do have that ability, so I want to like tap on them a little bit. One of them being Aerial here, which has the 3rd skill. It fills up the attack bar of all allies by 20% each and recovers their HP by 30%. This is a huge Lucian counter, especially with this 3rd skill getting a buff from what it used to be without the increased attack bar. But basically what you want to do is you run it Nemesis Will, or triple Nemesis. So if you Lucian test against other people and you're not cutting in between, if you don't have enough speed on your aerial to cut in between with Nemesis Will, then I recommend switching to triple Nemesis, so that way you can make sure, it's way more important to make sure that you cut in between Lucians than it is to have that will set on your aerial. So mainly though, speed, HP, because you want to be able to take at least one hit of a Lucian and be able to come back from it. As much resistance as possible, but the drawback again to aerial is that the base speed for really all the Archangels is pretty poor at 95. It's tough to get a lot of speed out of him, so building Nemesis is not a bad idea at all by any means. Trust me, it's a good option. You can go defense, really, you're not going to use it on like offense to like boost your team up. Like, don't build aerial swift and, you know, try to use aerial to boost your attack bar. Like, there's way other better free to play monsters out there than aerial. That would be fucking hilarious though. If you ask me if someone used aerial on offense to increase their attack bar, I would probably die. In fact, I might make a video on it now just because. But defense, you can use it as the leader, you can use it with a speed leader, and then have it as a secondary thing, but really just want to make sure that the monsters that you use with him aren't going to die against that Lucian, because if they die and the aerial's the only one left over, then who are you going to heal? You're not going to heal anybody, you're going to heal yourself, and an aerial alone can't take out a full Lucian team. It's just not going to happen. Moving on though to the next one, we have Velajuel. We talked about him a little bit earlier with the Draco. Pretty much the same thing though. Draco though does have a lot better base speed than Velajuel does. So really though, Velajuel is a much better monster than Draco. So don't think that, oh, I'm going to use Draco instead of Velajuel now because he's got the better base speed. No, like the cleanse that comes off of the 3rd skill removes all harmful effects on all allies, granting them immunity for 3 turns and increasing attack bar by 3 turns. Is just very, very nice to have, especially in RTA, Arena, R5s, all over the place. Guild Wars, Velajuel is a super awesome monster, and I would still recommend using it, kind of like I said with the Draco, to counter the Amduats as well, because Amduats are super relevant on arena defense right now, so you got to figure out a way to get past those Amduats. Velajuel gives you an option as well. Mainly, I would say Violent Will is the main build that you have for him. Violent Will, defense, HP, or Violent Will... So, or not defense HP, but speed, defense, HP. I'm sorry, I missed that. So speed, defense, HP, or speed, HP, HP with defense subs is your best option. Just to give you guys an idea, I have mine runed just like that. So speed, defense, HP with about plus 148 speed. It's not the best Velajuel in the world, but it's really nice and fast. It does the job. The only problem is for mine, it's super squishy, and I wish it wasn't squishy, but that's kind of what you're looking for. Resistance is nice. Crit rate is always good to have on Velajuel as well for his second skill. But overall, you can build him swift if you're going to use him in like RTA. It's very tricky to run him with swift. You got to kind of have a whole plan of attack, not just saying, okay, I'm going to run swift Velajuel and get the first turn based on Velajuel, because there's other monsters out there that have much higher base speed than 95 that are going to be faster. So you're not really using Velajuel to be faster than them. You're using him as like a reactive speed booster, if that makes sense. Next up, we have some of the more common ones. I want to talk about one though real quick, because this one really just almost fell off the face of the earth, and that is the Wind Griffin, Bernard here. So he is not completely off the face of the earth, but he is getting kind of phased out with the current meta in Arena. Not completely phased out though for PvE and regular content, because he does have this skill, increase attack bar of all allies by 30%, and also increase their attack speed by 2 turns. Same as Wayne, same exact as Wayne. Attacks the enemy with a buy sound, decrease their attack and attack defense. But look at the speed on this one, 111 compared to Wayne. Wayne was also 111, so that's why these were two of the main boosters or attack bar boosters back in the day. Bernard is still around because you use him with a Lucian team. You get that 30% attack power boost for wind monsters. You pair it with another attack bar or attack power booster like Megan, and you get this 1-2 combo with Bernard, Megan, Lucian, and just kind of wreck people. As long as they're fast enough, you got to be careful, because if you're not fast enough, then you get outsped and you're fucked. So Bernard though is getting phased out slightly, and we'll talk as we go into the more meta relevant ones here very shortly as to why Bernard is getting phased out. So kind of the reason why he's getting phased out, along with Megan, is that they came out with this buff for Bastet. Okay, Bastet, I just spit all over myself. I don't know if you guys saw there or not, but Bastet has this increase the attack bar of all allies by 25%. This skill will also increase create a shield that absorbs damage and increase your attack power for 3 turns. Okay, a 3-turn attack power boost is really nice on a Lucian comp. Also very nice in RTA, very nice in R5s, Guild Wars, a lot of different places that Bastet is very relevant in, and probably one of the best gauge boosters in the game right now. I wouldn't say the best, but it is one of the best in the game, because basically how you take it is you can have Bernard still, you can still have Bernard, and then you can use Bastet instead of Megan, and you get the 3-turn instead of a 2-turn attack bar increase. Plus you have a little bit nicer of a 25% attack bar boost instead of, I believe it's a 20% attack bar boost on Megan. And then you also get the shield, which is nicer than defense, because it's probably going to take a little bit more damage off of that Water Fairy King that's so relevant in arena defenses that you guys got to figure out how to beat. And Bastet is a good option for that. Now, if you don't have Bastet, your next option would be to rune a Megan. We were kind of talking about that as well. And I will pull her up when I can find her. right there. Okay. So Megan, I still kind of like Megan, even though I have Bastet, Megan, Bernard, Velajuel, Ariel, everything. So I still like Megan though because she offers this attack power boost leader skill that if you don't use Bernard, since Bernard's kind of getting phased out a little bit as we go farther into this meta, that you still have Megan that is there to increase the attack power of the allies. And the reasoning behind why, though, I would still pick Bastet over Megan is because you have Bastet as the shield, so you can take more damage. But then the defenses aren't really that tanky, okay? A lot of comps these days are super fast, super squishy. They're basically brute forcing you out so that way they can kill you before you kill them and force you into bruising their defense, otherwise not winning at all. And that's really the men meta up at G3, Legendary Arena, and stuff like that. And I can see it kind of in Conquer Arena. The only problem is with Conquer Arena, the rune quality isn't there. So if you don't have speed runes where you can be like 325 speed on a, you know, freaking Orion Swift Will or something like that, then you got to resort to other options, because if you keep getting outsped, then you're not going to rank up in Arena. So we'll talk about, though, at the very end of how to counter all these different speed metas. But so obviously Megan, though, is still a solid choice. If you don't have a Bastet, make sure you build it on Swift Will, though. Will is important because you want to be able to attack or Lucian out Leo comps, and if the Leo hits your Megan, puts your Megan behind your two Lucians, you're kind of cucked at that time too. So be careful with that. The overall speed, though, base speed is 97%. You can still use that attack leader pair it with like a Kabila or Bernard or whatever you want your main one to be. I would say we'll get into a little bit more here as we go along. So we talked about Megan, we talked about Bass, we talked about Bernard. Might as well talk about Kabila here in the same sentence, because this is something that I would say is probably going to be your best option. Completely. Best option for a gauge booster, and I would say put your fastest Swift set on Kabila. 100% fastest Swift set, no matter what runes you have. Broken set is fine. Will is a little better. Will is a lot better, actually. But if you're going to be losing like 20 speed, 15 speed, just go broken set and just try to outspeed everybody as much as possible, because this is the speed meta. Kabila is the speed master, okay? Here's why. 120 base speed. That's insane on a speed attack booster. Increases the attack bar of all allies by, you get that full 30%. It's not no 25% bullshit. It's not no 20% bullshit. And decreases the chances of being hit with a critical chance by 50% for 3 turns. So you get a free glancing buff as well for 3 turns, and the skill cooldown on it is super low. I don't know if I can show you guys exactly how low it is. I put mine in storage so that way nobody can peek my speed on it, but I'll just show you guys real quick because I'm not hiding anything. So storage, Kabila, it's a 3-turn cooldown. So you're always going to have that glancing up. It's always going to be, you know, decreasing the damage that you're taking on your team from that Samat that's going to come back and revenge the crap out of you. And that's why Kabila is just 100%. Water Fairy King, countering Water Fairy King is the reason why Kabila is such an awesome option for attack bar boosting. And that's why I prioritize my Kabila over my Bernard, over my Wayne. I don't have a Wayne, I'm just saying. But, you know, prioritize the fastest runes on her out of anything. My runes aren't fast at all, as you saw, about 302 or 304, whatever it might have been. It's not grinded yet, but I can still get the grinds on to make it a little bit faster. But that's my main priority, and I hope that's your guys' as well, if you have one, if you're lucky enough to have one. If not, then you can switch over to the Bernard, I would say, probably your next best bet. If you don't have Bernard, if you have Kabila, Kabila greater than Bernard, okay? Aside from that, to get back into our list here, to talk a little bit more about Kabila, though, let's talk a little bit more about Kabila, because I want to really explain to you guys why Kabila works so great. So she has that 120 base speed, so it makes her so much faster than any other Bernard, you know, Wayne, Frigate, Bastet. That base speed is really where it comes in and is clutch for everything. So with the base speed being what it is, it gives you an advantage where if you use also a 33% speed leader skill with your Kabila, with 2 Lucians, you're in a really good spot. By the way, these Lucians, if you don't know already, Lucians want to be built with as close to 100% crit rate as possible, because you're not going to be using it with a Fire Hellhound anymore. Unless you're using it with your Purian, which again, I don't recommend it. It's a little bit out of meta, a little bit slow, because it's really just a speed race right now. I wouldn't recommend building it with anything less than 80% crit rate on your Lucians. Anywhere upwards of 90% is ideal, and you want to probably go upwards of 90%, I would say, just to be safe. You don't have to. 85, 80%, 85% is fine, but to get as much consistency as possible, 90% plus, definitely. And then for using your Lucians as well, we'll talk about this a little bit since we're on the Lucian subject, because it's such a huge arena offense option right now with the speed meta. You can do a couple different things with these speed boosters. So you can use Kabila, you can use Bastet afterwards, and then your 2 Lucians. Okay, so you have Kabila, Bastet, 2 Lucians. You have your attack power, you have your super fast Kabila that can outspeed like Water Fairy King Orion combinations or Sierra Orion combinations that you don't need a speed leader. If you have a speed leader arena defense that you're going against, then you can use a Jin. Okay, you have a Jin. You have Jin, which is the light ninja. If you guys don't know, it's a HOH monster, so everybody should have him. So you have Jin, Kabila, 30% speed leader, and then you have Kabila go, and then you have a Konamiya go, or you have the damn, what's his name? I can't figure his name out. The light Konamiya. We'll just call it the light Konamiya. God, I'm gonna kill myself. Okay. Tiana, I don't know why I forgot that. Brain fart, whatever. So yeah, you gotta have your Tiana go, because it's still taking advantage of that 30% leader skill from Jin, and you boost up a really slow Lucian with a lot of attack power, a lot of crit rate, a lot of crit damage, and you just one-shot everybody, which I can also make a video for you guys if you want as well. But I mean, that arena offense is really good. You can also use, say, the Water Ninja and do Water Ninja into a Bastet into double Lucians. There's all these different options for you guys, and it's just really picking which one to prioritize. You can't possibly ruin all of your gauge buffers. So by the way, for that Jin combination, that AO right there, that is a great counter for Water Fairy Kings. I can't stress that enough. Great counter for Water Fairy Kings against like squishy Water Fairy King teams, ones that you're gonna do massive damage against. Going into like G3 arena, you want to try to do like 12k per card, which is really hard to do without an attack leader. Around Conquer Arena, 10k is fine. We'll probably do okay. You just want to make sure that your Kabila goes first, obviously. It's going to be faster than anything. Then you're going to have your Jin go preferably after Kabila. So you're going to want the Jin to be pretty fast. And then he's going to use his AoE skill. Let's just pull up his skills right here. Jin and Tonic. Where is he at? Where's that light ninja? I'm probably looking right at it. There he is. Click on it. Okay, so we have the 30% light attribute leader skill. That's why the ninjas are pretty good in this meta. And then you have this third skill, blows up a ray of light to inflict damage to all enemies. Each attack has a 50% chance to increase the enemy's chances of glancing or landing of glancing hit for 3 turns. That's why you want him to go first. You want him to soften up the field a little bit. Soften them up. You know, just turn them into mush in your hands. And then you're going to Lucian them completely out. You're going to have that Water Fairy King come back. You also already have that you know, that glancing buff from Kabila. Okay, don't forget about that. So the Water Fairy King is not going to land double, triple crits on your Lucian and kill him. So you're going to have a couple turns where you can come back. You have your super fast Jhin. Takes care of any other fire straggler monsters that you have. Really solid choice. Shout out to Herman, or shout out to Corrosive, that kind of was talking to me about this arena offense as well. The other one, though, with the Water Ninja and the Bastet, that was a Scat Fetus arena offense. Two super high-level players, lots of legendary finishes between the two of them. So thank you guys for that knowledge, and hopefully you guys can take that knowledge as well. We still, however, have a couple other gauge boosters to go over, so we'll just take care of those now. Let's take a look at the Orion. Okay, so Orion's pretty popular, right? I feel like almost everybody has him, but I feel really bad for the people that don't. So I don't want to say like, oh yeah, you know, he's super easy to get, everybody has him, because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have him, unfortunately. But base speed, really nice. That's like the first thing you want to look at. Third skill, randomly selects an enemy target 4 times to grant one of the following effects: remove beneficial effects, stun, decrease, blah, blah, blah. You guys know what it does. Additionally, the attack bar of all allies will be increased by 30%. The problem with Orion is that he is mainly an arena defense monster right now. You want to build him as fast as possible, but he also needs to have will runes. If he does not have will runes, he is very easily countered by Leos, and people will figure that shit out real quick and take advantage of your AD and basically take it down a dark alley and, you know, have their way with you. So you don't want that. You want to make sure that you're building it on will as fast as you possibly can. So if you're going to prioritize swift will sets, I would say Kabila first, fastest set. Orion second, fastest swift will set with as much accuracy as possible as well, because if he uses his third skill, that's all cute. You outsped him, you did great, but you didn't remove any will runes, you didn't remove any buffs, you didn't land any debuffs, and really at that point, who cares? Who cares if you went first? If you don't have everybody else coming up behind it as well, and you get cut in between your Orion and your whatever your leader skill might be, you're done. You're done. You're just done. But Orion, I would say, is kind of irrelevant if you don't have a leader skill with it as well. So anything like 24%, even a Gemini leader skill, you got to have a leader skill with Orion. You really do. If you're running a speed composition on arena defense, if you think you can outspeed people, definitely have a leader skill with Orion. Trust me, you're going to want it. You're going to need it. Aside from that, though, you got to be careful, though, because people are going to be using the Kabilas to go faster than you. They're not going to need any sort of speed booster, because your Orion's probably not going to be able to outspeed a Kabila. Even on your fastest swift set, most Kabilas should be able to counter you, even with a speed leader skill. Kabila doesn't need a speed leader skill. Boost up his team, boost up the Bastet or Megan, and then boost up the 2 Lucians, and then they Lucian your team. So you got to make sure you have speed leader skill, Orion. Everybody's able to take at least 1 Lucian, and then you also want to have a two monsters in between your speed leader and your Orion that are somehow countering Lucians to boost up your team even more, or heal your team. So you guys, okay, I can't like give away all the examples, but you guys got to have ways that you can use the monsters that you have in your box to kind of figure out what's the best option for you to counter the Lucians using those 2 other monsters, okay? Because that's one arena defense you got to think of, or one arena offense that you got to think of while building your arena defense. Okay, so that's Orion. Has to be swift will. Don't build it without will, otherwise you're not going to get the results that you want from Orion. Second to last, we have Tiana. So let's take a look at Tiana. And I apologize, this video is getting a little long, but there's, like I said, a lot of information in it, so I appreciate you guys making it this far. And so Tiana, baby, right here, if it wants to click on it, there we go. Okay, so Tiana, immediately look at the speed. First thing, 96 speed, real bad, real bad, okay. Then you have removes all harmful and beneficial shit. Everybody knows what Tiana does. removes everything, boosts up your attack bar by 30%. One of the most awesome skills in the game, hands down. So after you build your fastest Swift-Will Orion, you're going to build your fastest Swift-Will Tiana. Tiana needs resistance, needs as much resistance as possible, but the nice thing is that she awakens into resistance, so she gets an automatic 25% resistance boost. The reason why you want to build her on resistance is because everybody else can get stunned, they can get messed up or whatever else, but as long as your Tiana stays alive, and all your other monsters at least stay alive, they can get stunned or frozen or whatever else. As long as your Tiana doesn't get stunned, then you can boost up the rest of your team, use her on arena offense, even arena defense I've seen work too as well. If you guys watch my top arena defenses and why they worked video, you can see how a Tiana works wonders in arena defense for Tenzin. G3 finishes all the time. And then she also works in RTA very well. So can't stress it enough though. Definitely want as much resistance as possible. I like building her with crit damage and attack because if I build her on arena offense, then I don't want to waste a monster. She has a great AoE skill that attacks all enemies with a powerful storm. The damage increases proportion to the enemy's attack speed, and so she can do a lot of damage if you're fighting against fast teams with just an AoE skill. So crit damage, attack, Tiana is amazing. Now, if you don't have those specific 4 and 6 slot runes, that's fine. You can build her HP, you can build her attack, you can build her whatever the hell you want. Just make her your next fastest Swift-Will set. Will is less, I would say, less of a must-have than it is on Orion because you're using her in certain situations. So if you know for a fact that the other team is going to outspeed you, then just don't fight it. Like, there's other options out there to fight instead of fighting into a team that's going to outspeed your Sierra Tiana combination or whatever it might be. But if you're not using a Sierra where you're going to be going first all the time, you really want to make sure that she has will runes, because if she doesn't have will runes, she's going to get Zeros reset, she's going to get Okeanos reset, Sekhmet reset, because she's just sitting there waiting for all them bitches to reset her, and that's going to suck. The secondary option, if you don't want to outspeed her, you don't have to build her with Swift runes, because if you're just going to be cleaving, like say you got a double nuker with Galleon combination with Tiana, then you have this awesome opportunity to run Will, Shield on Tiana, let everybody hit you, take all the damage with all your teammates on Will and Shield runes as well, and then boost everybody up, get everybody's Will runes on the other team all removed, or Shield, or whatever they might have buffed themselves with. Remove all that shit, then put your Galleon behind her, and then double nuke after that is also a good option. But in that situation, you're not planning to outspeed, so it doesn't need to be super fast. So if you're running out of Swift sets, that's another option for Tiana. Now, the last monster in this video that I want to talk about, last but definitely not least, if you guys watched the Mobile Masters event, it was very, very relevant in RTA, and that is Frigate. Okay, the Dark Pirate Captain. Okay, now he is a little less common, or a little less obtainable, I would say, but has to be on this list, has to be talked about, has to be mentioned, because he's just so good, and he's only a 4-star LD, so it's a little bit more obtainable than Sean. So 108 speed, great speed, really good speed, because his third skill increases the attack bar of all allies not by 30%, not by 25%, not by 20%, 50%. 50%. So it's like Purian, but with way better base speed. Also reduces the cooldown of their skills by 1 turn each. That's crazy. Reduces the skill cooldown, but it's like a little Mav too. You get a little Mav in there. And for RTA, you're boosting up your attack bar by 50%. You're also decreasing their cooldown by 1 turn. Guys, come on. That's OP. That's OP, because after that, so everybody basically gets, say, 2 turns taken off. So they get 1 turn, boom, with the skill, and then they get 50%. So they get almost back around to their next turn. So it's like 1.5 skill cooldown reduction, which is crazy. And then you have this second skill, bombardment of 3 rounds to attack at random targets. Each hit has a 75% chance of stunning the enemy for 1 turn. That's crazy as well. I would say Frigate, man. If you guys have one, if you want to look at competing in RTA, this dude right here will help you out. 100%. Super good monster. I can't stress that enough. This is another monster. Obviously, your best option on almost any gauge booster is Swift, Will, Speed, blank, blank. But you don't have to have Will. For RTA, though, you have to have Will. Use Will because just in case you get outsped, you want to have some sort of RNG luck behind your team that you can potentially resist some shit and be able to boost up your attack bar after it. So Swift Will, your next option. Overall, that's about as many gauge boosters that I can think of. I know there's others out there, Konamiya, Tiana, that we didn't really discuss too much, but mainly I wanted to talk to you guys about the full team gauge boosters and really how to prioritize them. So if you guys have gotten anything out of this video, prioritize Kabila, then Orion, Frigate. Tiana doesn't have to be that fast. So if you're starting to run out of sets, kind of put Tiana on the back burner. Again, she's a 5-star monster, so not everybody that's watching this video is going to have her. Bastet can be interchangeable with Megan. Bernard is getting phased out by Kabila, and Velajuel not really competing because he doesn't use Swift. Ariel not competing because he doesn't use Swift. Sean, if you have him, you know what, figure it out yourself because I hate you. No, I'm just kidding. But Orion, again, getting phased out a little bit, just too slow. Draco, yeah, arena defense monster, maybe. I don't even say that I want to say that Draco's an arena defense monster. And then Wayne. So Wayne's OG, for real, OG. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned anything from it, anything at all, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, comment. It helps me out, and I really appreciate it. But even if you learned that wearing pink on camera is not a good idea, go ahead and subscribe because I appreciate that as well. But thank you guys again. Stay soupy as always. Don't be potatoes, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye. What's going on, Soup? It's Claytano. Be sure to subscribe for more content every single day. If you missed yesterday's video, you can check it out here. And if you're in need of some free crystals, you can click on this other link instead. Also, if you want to stay connected with me personally, go ahead and hit me up on any social media platform at Claytano, and I will see you guys tomorrow.